Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Guys, I am super excited about tonight's live stream, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturday Nightmares, live from upstate New York. I hope to see you all there. We do have a lot of fun sharing experiences and theories and much more. Before we jump into this bonus, though, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, it takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus upload, shall we? Alright guys, we're just going to start the video out strong. And check this video clip out. I have some information on it, which I will share momentarily. My guess was exactly what it is, to be honest with you. So here is the video clip, and then I will share some more information with you afterward. So about a week ago, 9 days ago, I spoke to my friend and your friend, Victor. And he called me out of the blue because he had seen the second to last live stream and actually realized that I'm going through what I'm going through with my health. Wanted to make sure I was okay. We actually had a very long conversation, about an hour. Now, during that conversation, we talked about the Tom Mezek case. We talked about all of the animal, air quote, animal attacks that I've covered, which there is a lot, at least 60. And I've been interviewed on very large channels and platforms because of my research into them. Now, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying that that is my niche. Like, that is what I really like to look into. But the video clip that you just saw, I told you guys about the time Victor had shared a photo with me of a baby Dogman, or baby werewolf, excuse me. And right after he shares this photo of the baby werewolf, I said, that is the ugliest thing I had ever seen in my entire life. It was not as small as this one. It was actually, I'd say, 6 to 7, maybe a year old. It was very small still. But this is a baby werewolf. Now, a lot of people in the comment section, when I talk about werewolf and Dogman, on this channel, because of Victor, and this is the honest to goodness truth, because of Victor sharing the difference between Dogman and werewolf, that's what we call him on this channel. So I will quickly, now other channels still call these creatures Dogmen, or other channels that have watched this channel will copy my channel and say werewolf. Dogman, hocked legs, tail, elongated snout, runs with a hunch, or hutched over, excuse me, and is not as large as the werewolf or Bigfoot. Werewolf has human-like legs, no tail, short muzzle, almost non-existent muzzle, but a muzzle larger than a Bigfoot face and much smaller than a Dogman. That is a werewolf on this channel. I wouldn't go on other channels and be like, hey, this is a werewolf, because they'll be like, oh, it's a Dogman variant type 2B CDFG. I've never had a Dogman experience, but I have this channel, and that variant sheet is created by a fella who never had a Dogman encounter in his life. It's crazy. My own view is, if you're going to create a variant type A, type B sheet or, chart, have an experience, because that's really what got me into this. And many of you. And I'm not saying those of us who have had experiences are any better than anybody. We're not. We're the same. We just have had an experience that will haunt us for the rest of our lives. What I saw didn't fit the category of a Dogman or Bigfoot. It had a elongated snout, and from what I think back to, and what I've come to realize, it did have human-like legs. But I can't put 2 and 2 together if it had a tail. It was so quick when we saw it. Now, this video is a baby werewolf per Victor. And I'm going to take him at his word, because I do. I have respect for the man. Many people disagree with who he is and what he says and this and that, but to me, he has proven himself time and time again. It's pretty crazy that this video is online still. I'm wondering how soon or how long it will be before it is taken down. But anyway, Victor will be coming on the show very soon. And I am excited because it's going to be the first interview that I've done with Victor in over a year. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, what about the interviews that you shared last month? Well, like I said in the beginning of those were older interviews to share and get folks that are new to the channel acquainted with Victor and his experiences. So anyway, with that news, I want to jump into tonight's second encounter, but let's take one last look at this baby werewolf. And I believe it's in India. Some may say, Jeff, wait, werewolf in India? Dogman in India? Yeah. I've had numerous accounts, and I'm sure other channels have as well. Actually, I have a subscriber who is from Pakistan, and had 2 dogmen on his property there. So, let's do this. Today's second part of the upload is an encounter that I think was either a baby dogman or baby Sasquatch. You be the judge. Last year I was backpacking deep in the mountains of Montana. I was near Libby, Montana, about 3 hours west of Glacier National Park. I was hiking alone and expected to encounter some bear, grizzly, moose, etc. I'm experienced and know how to handle them, so I wasn't too scared, but this time I was way out in the middle of nowhere with nobody around for miles, also no cell service anywhere, and I didn't have my emergency beacon with me. Usually I expect to see other hikers on the trail, but not here, no. I was out there completely alone, and I knew it. Well, I was like 9 miles from camp at an upper Cedar Lake. About halfway the trail opened up and I was in somewhat of a clear area. I had better visibility of what was around me. There were still trees and green undergrowth covering the ground. A few minutes later, I see something quickly scurry across the trail, maybe 50 feet in front of me. I stopped, froze, and waited. The creature noticed me, then stood up in the undergrowth, but still almost completely covered by the tall grass and shrubs. It was maybe 3.5 feet tall, pitch black, 150 pounds, and obviously very quick and intelligent. I assumed it was a baby black bear at first, so I did not move or make a sound, and I got my bear spray ready, fully expecting an angry mother bear to come roaring out of the trees at me, but thankfully that did not happen, because I surely would have been attacked or at least bluff charged.
All I could see was its face through the tall grass. The creature had what appeared to be a snout, but not really a snout, so to say, almost like a bear's, but pointed ears. The creature was staring at me intensely for about 30 seconds. I was staring back at it. It did not move a muscle. Then suddenly it huffed loudly at me and ran through the grass up the side of the hill, and I never saw it again. The sound it made was a lot deeper than you'd expect from something that small. It was like a bear's growl. You could feel it inside your chest. It was very unsettling. I stood there silently and waited for a few more minutes to see if a mother bear was nearby. That it was indeed a cub, but nothing came. I gingerly passed through the area on the trail and kept hiking. This was like no creature I had ever seen before. It was the way it moved. I only saw it for a second, but it almost slithered on the ground like a reptile, and then it stood up on its hind legs and watched me, making me feel very uncomfortable. There was something sinister about it. I checked for tracks, but I couldn't find any. I have no idea what this creature was. Today's next encounter, I have no idea what it is. It could be a feral human being or a Sasquatch. You be the judge. I spent my life in Georgia, and I love hiking all over, but I must admit North Carolina has the best mountains. For this reason, I frequently drive up there and hike and camp. This time I went up with my family in an RV and stayed with them in Maggie Valley. The next day, however, I had them drop me off about 10 miles away at the Cold Mountain Trailhead, and I planned to hike up, spend the night, and be back down in the morning. I was by no means inexperienced at hiking or camping, but I had never camped alone. On top of that, I didn't bring a pistol, something I would not go without now. On the way up, the trail was surprisingly strenuous. Not necessarily steep. I've hiked some steep stuff out west, but more like a ton of ups and downs and feeling like they wouldn't end. Eventually, it began to get darker, and I realized I needed to stop and set up while I still had some light. So I stopped about a half a mile short of the summit and figured I'd continue in the morning. Nothing eventful happened. I set up the camp in a really good spot, ate my food, and went into the tent. At this point, I realized I hadn't run into a single person my entire way up. This wasn't eerie at the time, but soon would be. I have trouble sleeping and usually lie awake for up to an hour trying to fall asleep. During this time, I thought I heard someone lightly walking around the general area because of the rhythm of the steps. I brushed it off as my mind was running wild, but I did pull my big old knife out of my bag and put it next to me in my sleeping bag. That morning, I woke up, ate my oatmeal. As I ate, I looked over at my tent and noticed a strange bundle of dried twigs and berries tied in a green cord propped against my tent. Internally, I was scared, almost urinating on myself, but I packed my crap up and took off in 5 minutes. In no way I bothered to go to the summit. I headed straight down. On the way down, I realized there was a pretty heavy fog, and ended up on a side trail that eventually ended, and I was lost. I used a compass to eventually reorient myself and found the trail again, one of my biggest reliefs. I made it out with no other incident. However, come to find out, the same morning a 27-year-old died on the same section of trail as me, and it's possible I would have run into him had I not gotten lost and rejoined the trail later. His family seems to have scrubbed the internet of several of the articles on him, but I'll see if I can find one. The scariest part of this whole thing is knowing that someone or something knew where I was and was watching me, and I had no idea about them. Today's third part of the upload. It was the third week of August in 2020. My friend Riley and I had went hiking in a local forest. out in western Oregon. It was and still is a common practice for the two of us to kill a day hiking. So this began as just another day for us, that is to say, until we saw, heard, and found what we did. This particular trail was one that we had hiked at various distances, probably at least several times in the past, and we knew the area well enough for both of us to carry sidearms. It's a good piece of advice for anyone hiking to carry a weapon, and on this day, this type of preparedness proved itself out once again. By 11:30, we had stopped for a break, having already covered several miles from up and down terrain, to eat a sandwich and have a drink. Now at 47, I was in top condition, and Riley was certainly my equal. So we were in no way suffering from fatigue. It was more or less a routine to stop periodically and listen for the woods. This was when we heard the first rock-clackling noise. As a hiker/hunter woodsman, we are used to sounds of silence, as we call them, that the woods are capable of producing, with rocks crackling together not being one of them. There was no need to ask each other if we heard this sound. Rather, we both stood up, grabbed our packs, and started to move towards where it had came from. Our thoughts were that it had come from a hunter, so we shouted in hopes of getting a response instead of a bullet, being mistaken for something in the woods other than a human being. Nothing responded, so we walked a little further and shouted again. Still nothing. We weren't being quiet at any time, so anything or anyone would be able to hear us as we now hiked about another 200 yards, which is when we found a dog. Smack dab in the middle of the trail was a mutt, dead as a doornail and half starved from the looks of it, with its neck all twisted up like a wet towel. Riley shook violently, fouling by saying that he had just gotten the chills. I couldn't blame him. As for me, I had gotten a little something more than the chills, as a feeling of extreme fear took hold of me. Now, Riley and I have been together for so long that no matter who says what first, it is generally what the other is thinking. Riley says, "What kind of satanic person would do something like this to a dog?" Which was exactly I was thinking. The animal was so starved, it appeared to have been brought into the woods where someone had pinned it down and twisted its neck around numerous times for good measure. It was nasty to see. The two of us are now thinking that there is at least one, if not two, madmen in the woods clacking rocks as a kind of signal that intruders have arrived. Both of us drew our guns and sat still for 10 minutes or so, hoping to get an indicator as to who or what was around us. As we sat there in the silence looking at each other and back into the woods, suddenly we heard something very big go tearing through the trees, and then it stopped. It sounded heavy and was in no way trying to be quiet about its movements. I had heard animals do this before. They engaged full on in a fight, but there was no noise in the form of grunts or snorts, nothing indicating of some type of animal which either of us knew, and certainly nothing that heavy-footed. That's when the scream sounded. It was something like a cougar and a bear all wound into one, and loud, lasting for 15 or so seconds, then total silence. I signaled with a thumbs up that we should beat it out of here, and we started to backtrack. As we start to move, whatever this thing was started to run towards us, crashing through the trees, snapping branches. We stood our ground, guns drawn, and prepared to shoot. As all of the commotion stopped, I realized I had been holding my breath and took a deep sigh, signaling to my friend to keep moving, which we did. We now ran past the area where the dog was lying, and it was gone. But we weren't going to stop and look around. We both knew the spot, and it was most definitely not lying there anymore. We started to trot, and whatever was in the trees started to run with us. I don't think it was more than 100 feet away, running parallel with us. The difference being we were on the trail, and whatever it was pacing us through the dense brush. We had to have run at a trot for a mile or so, when suddenly we heard no more noise. As we slowed our pace to catch our wind, once again my friend spoke, saying that there was some sort of creature out there, which was exactly I was thinking. Now back at the truck, we were in total agreement that nothing could have produced that sound that is known in these parts. That, coupled with the way it was able to run through the trees and the distinctive sound of its weight. I can't even wrap my mind around how it just produced such a noise. It sounded like a metal tamper that's used to compact soil. Then you're laying a brick driveway, boom, 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 repeating again and again with deliberate manner. Now, some would say, what kind of encounter was that? There's no proof. So what? You found a dead dog and heard some loud noises. All I can say is this. When you know something in your heart of hearts, you own it. I'm convinced that all of this was the work of a Sasquatch or a Dogman that day. In my mind, it must have killed this stray and, for whatever reason, had dropped it or left it hearing us coming, but was not about to leave it there. It's only a theory, of course, with anything being possible. Anyway, that's what we experienced on that day, believe it or not. Today's final encounter. I was an employee of what is known down south as a swamp logging crew. In the lowland timber regions of the South, there is much logging being done that continues to this very day, with many of the properties being swampy, water-soaked, and boggy. Many people will recall the legend of Boggy Creek, for example. We would enter many of these properties, laying out makeshift roads using logs and soil where possible to access lumber through the swamps and bogs with our heavy equipment. On one job, we lost a large piece of heavy equipment as we stood by watching it sink into the bog, unable to pull it free. It represented several $100,000 vanishing into the mud. Many of these sites, years after having been logged, the new growth now filling in the voids created by the work, became rich with new wildlife moving in. Such was the case with the property involved in this sighting. At the time, my co-worker was quite the hunter. He would spend much of his time hunting as he did work, and regularly handed me an open invitation to join him, which I frequently did. Knowing what he knew, it was a regular practice of him to continually comb previous job sites for activity relative to animal populations moving into the area, and the day came for an invite to one such location. He told me that he had been keeping an eye out on this 200-acre spot for the last 6 months and had seen a lot of feral hog moving in, as well as a couple of really decent black bear mulling about. It was a Saturday morning before sunrise when we pulled into the old logging road with the truck. We hiked into what he said was a favorable location, set up our blind. It was a lightweight camouflage tent suitable for 2 men with rifles. There had 3 screened window flaps on it, 1 along the front and 2 on the sides. So we entered the blind and waited. At this point, it was still dark, 4 in the morning. As our eyes got accustomed to the darkness, it being a very overcast day, within about 20 minutes, we were already seeing a couple of hog moving about. My buddy whispered to me that he wanted to tag one of the blackies, as he called them, and was hopeful that if we were patient we would get one, so we waited. As ridiculous as this may sound, I suddenly had to relieve myself, number 2, and stepped out of the back of the blind. No sooner had I been right in the middle of the act than did my buddy whisper loudly, "Hurry up, man, I see one moving in." You can't rush this type of thing, so as soon as I was able, I was back in the blind, as he pointed out in the distance in front of the blind, about 70 or 80 yards away. On a sunny day, the area we were looking at would have been in the shadows, but It was overcast, with the sun having not yet risen. We could see something moving. There was something black passing among the trees and brush, which was indistinguishable, so many trees being between us and it. But we couldn't see it. My buddy said it was the biggest black bear he'd ever seen. Now, I wasn't half the hunter that he was, and hadn't identified anything that I would call a huge bear, with the only thing I had seen being some dark flashes of color that were moving. Of that much I was certain. My friend put his rifle on the pole and was trying to scope it for a better look, when he said, "What the heck?" I said to him, What? He said, "Hold on, man, I'm trying to get a better look, but it keeps moving." He then said, "My God in heaven, what is that?" He told me to take a look, my rifle not having a scope on it, so I moved over and looked. What I saw was something hunched over, its apparent back moving up and down like someone weeding the garden, not looking anything like a Bigfoot to me personally. I asked him, "What makes you think this is a Bigfoot?" He said, "Keep watching." Almost on cue, with my buddy saying that, it stood up, and for sure as shooting, it was some kind of monster. I couldn't believe it, and I handed my friend his rifle back. I found myself somewhere between total fear and ecstasy having seen it. Having only one scope to share, my buddy said, "It's moving away. It looks like it's holding something," and then it was over. My buddy was gleaming, wearing a smile from ear to ear. "Can you believe that, man? We just saw some sort of Bigfoot thing." It took me a couple of minutes to come back to earth from where I was, basically freaking out. I was overwhelmed. The two of us moved outside of the blind, and now were cautiously walking toward where it had been. There is potential quicksand and all kinds of pitfalls in this area, so we had to be very careful. Having finally reached the spot where the creature had been, there was blood on the ground, and a fair amount of short grayish hair, which my buddy quickly identified as being a hog. He rather astutely surmised that what we were first looking at was the creature dealing with the hog on the ground, followed by it picking it up and leaving the scene, because he was the last to see it through the scope. He commented that it wasn't shouldering anything, so it must have had the hog under its arms or holding it in its hands. The hogs we have seen in were about 75 to 100 pound range, so if it had killed a similar one, that was quite the feat to carry it away in the hands or underarm. Originally, my buddy had said that it was the biggest blackie he had ever seen, now saying it had to be 600 pounds, possibly even more. He had identified a branch that it had walked by being level with its neck, and when we stepped alongside of it, my buddy, being 5'10", held his rifle up by the trigger, and the tip of the barrel was at the branch's height. This thing was well over 9 feet tall. The area we were in had large tracts of timber, such as the one we were in, but there are homes and some businesses not far away. I can't say I disbelieve in Bigfoots or any other kind of existence beforehand, but I didn't give it a second wink. This was a game changer for obvious reasons. Find the food and find the water, and you'll find the animals. This day, much of our surprise, we found something that we never thought existed.
All right, folks, I kind of had to do it, toss in that video clip right at the last minute, because, man, it is so friggin' interesting and so ugly. These creatures are just hideous looking as babies. I mean, my goodness. And then to grow into such a apex predator is incredible. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.